We're joined in the studio by David Mencer, Senior International Connector from Honest Reporting, and Christian Rumu, Senior Campaigner for Amnesty International, joining us from Kenya. Thank you both. Important to have you with us on the story. But David, in the studio here, coming to you first on this. First of all, and perhaps you can provide some light on this, how does an EU court have sway over UK affairs at this point, post-Brexit, or how did they stop the plan?
So this is an interesting point, David. This particular EU Court for Human Rights is separate from the Brexit and from the European Union structures. It was famous for being entered into by Winston Churchill himself after the Second World War. So some of the left-wing campaigners are busy reminding people of that fact this morning, but nonetheless, it is certainly a frustration to the British government.
And what is this plane, what's the status of it at this point? We know they're still trying to push it through. Is that where it sits?
Well, I think this policy is starting, there's two things about this policy. Is it for the headlines to try and address this real problem, this humanitarian problem of people dying in the Channel, one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world? 28,500 people came over in this illegal way, crossing over from France. Is it a real attempt to address this issue? Or is it for the headlines? Now, I would say, from a sort of media analyst, I would say it's starting to look more and more like it's for the headlines rather than for the intrinsic policy. Because even if this would have gone ahead, even if it would have gone ahead yesterday, there would have been seven people on board this flight. A flight which cost £500,000. 150 plane aircraft, £500,000 to charter this aircraft, and then it being cancelled in the end. Wow. So this is starting to look like a bit of a mess up. I would say that it's quite common for Conservative governments to start to do some things which are not very wise after 10 or 12 years in power, and this, unfortunately, looks like one of them.
Well, it seems to be the underlying theme, or the way it's appearing to look in the media. But, Christian, coming to you on this here, this flight being cancelled, did you see this as some sort of a victory or a new channel to possibly stop these flights from going forward at all?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a victory. This is a victory for the asylum seekers. This is the victory for their lawyers. This is the victory for the, thousands and thousands of activists and human rights campaigners who mobilized to get this flight to stop. But also we are cautiously celebrating this victory, mainly because of the determination by both the UK and Rwanda to pursue this initiative. But yeah, definitely this is a victory, and that we hope is just one of the many court victory that will lead to an end once for all on this initiative.
Christian, what do you see, or how do you describe the biggest problems with this, the biggest risks, the biggest threats even facing the people that are likely to be deported?
I think the European Court of Human Rights kind of describe this in a very efficient way, where they say that the plan actually does not provide access to a fair and efficient procedures for the determination of the refugee status. But also even back in 2020, the UNHCR itself, through the submission to the Universal Periodic Review process, highlighted few issues with these plans, and that included, for instance, arbitrary detentions by the Rwandan Immigration Services of asylum seekers. There was the issue around the treatment of LGBTIQ plus individual cases in Rwanda.
So do you see this as discriminatory? I mean, are you looking at this policy, this emergency, as really discriminatory by the government in the UK?
It's potentially discriminatory, absolutely. And we have also documented quite a number of human rights violations in Rwanda that, asylum seekers could face if they are pushed to or transferred to Rwanda.
Sure. A lot of questions around Rwanda here. But David, come back to you in the studio right now. I mean, can you give us an idea of just how this affair has evolved, or at least gotten to this point where Rwanda was the chosen destination, and why they seem to be so all in, this Conservative government, on this plan?
Well, it comes down to a simple fact of breakdown with the UK's immigration and asylum system. Tremendous delays. I mean, even if you fly into London with a valid passport, you're still waiting at least an hour and a half to get at the airport. It makes our own issues queuing up in Ben Gurion here and put it into perspective. So the entire immigration and asylum system in the UK is very much under tremendous pressure. There are tremendous backlogs. This is caused by a lack of staff, of a lack of investment in the system, and of course the very real problem. You know, in the last year, 30% of these migrants, majority of them under 40 years old, were from Iran, obviously running away for understandable reasons. And this year, of course, they are mainly coming from Afghanistan, which is also a Western issue. US having pulled out and the UK having pulled out unceremoniously, you could probably say, last summer. So these are very world issues. The whole issue of migration, movements of populations around the world is a real issue which countries have to address. But of course, why are they coming to the UK? Lots of these people are making a beeline for the UK. They are passing France, a free country, Germany, a free country, Greece, a free country, Italy, a free country. Why are they coming to the UK? And of course, the thing which nobody talks about, of course, is the perception amongst these asylum seekers, illegal or not, is that they believe that the UK is a soft touch when it comes to asylum seekers. I'm not making a judgment about whether their asylum is justified or not. That's up to the British authorities to understand. But there is this perception that if you can get to the UK, then you are set for the rest of your life. And that is a very, very real issue. So there is the problem of real asylum seekers, and I think the problem of economic migrants. So that's where the problem lies.
Thanks for breaking that down. Christian, come back to you with this. From your perspective and the people fighting against this now, does it boil down to safety? I mean, what kind of conditions, risks are people taking? Landing back in Rwanda?
I think, yeah, it's really very important to understand the human rights context in Rwanda. And as I was saying earlier on, we in 2018, we, for instance, documented incidents where refugees were killed by the Rwandan police. So Rwanda is facing serious human rights violations that we believe that asylum seekers, if they are transferred to Rwanda, could face. So we are not in a position now to talk about the condition of the asylum seekers who were set to be sent to Rwanda. Yeah. We have seen the government come out in terms of the preparation for their welcoming. We have seen that they've prepared a hotel where these people will be staying. But the whole human rights context of Rwanda needs to be assessed.
Not known as a comfortable landing pad, for sure, to say the least, for really anyone. Certainly these people who are in dire straits to begin with. Christian Rumu, appreciate you for joining us, coming to us from Kenya, Amnesty International at this point, helping add perspective to the story. Thank you. And David Mencer as well, joining us in the studio. So thank you both.